Welcome to the 2-for-1 podcast. I am your host, Bacon, the poignantly profiteering planeswalker. I'm here with my good buddy.
I'm Zemoo. I'm a legendary, legitimate business person. I have no other motives. Don't worry about it.
And that's really appropriate for this episode because today we're going to talk about one of my personal favorite things to do in Magic, which is trade. We want to show you how to best trade without getting taken advantage of, as well as not taking advantage of other people.
So a lot of the discourse on trading sort of like assumes that someone's winning, someone's losing, and we want to sort of just give you the tools to understand these dynamics without. We're not encouraging you. Let's get the story straight. We're not trying to tell you to be a shark. We're trying to tell you how to spot a shark.
Yep. While being able to accumulate value for yourself without being unethical. Yeah. This is actually very similar to what I do for work. I work in corporate sales, so a lot of these skills, you can take them and apply them to other things besides Magic, but those things are no fun to talk about, so let's jump into it. Now, to start off, let's have a little story.
Story time.
Well, let's take you back to the Mesozoic era, when I was like 13 years old. Little Nick, I opened up when I was a bacon bit, I opened up a 4th edition booster pack, and I found myself a Bird of Paradise. It's awesome. It was still great,
Yeah, bolt the bird for a reason. Like it
is tradition.
Banger card back in the day. And it's still just a good card, but like back in the day, it was a league of its own.
I still love bolting Manadorix, I'm not going to lie. But I was really excited. And then Chuck the Spike, he had found himself really wanting my card, and he offered me a trade. 4 Scaled Worms for my 1 Bird of Paradise. That's over 21 times the power. Imagine how bad I could smash my friends with that. And I was really tempted, honestly. Like, I was really new to the game, and there was 4 cards for 1 card, and I didn't quite understand how good Birds was, and I was about to do it, and then the store owner swooped in and saved me by buying my Bird of Paradise for $5. Netted me, like $4.80 in profit, because Scaled Worms is like a nickel even when it was first printed.
Yeah.
And so, really, I'm telling you that story because everybody has something like that. Yeah. We want to help you avoid that.
We've all been there. We've all been in a bad trade or, got offered a bad trade right when we were starting and don't know any better. It's a trading game, but like you're not born knowing how to trade. You don't know what the cards are all worth, and we just want to get you past that first hurdle.
Exactly, and like. In order the main theme of this is going to be understanding value. And to get the best understanding of that, let's take a step back and ask, what's the value in playing Magic? Why do people play Magic? And typically it's for 3 reasons, right? Most of us, or a good portion of our player base has been looking to make friends by playing this game. Yeah. Building friendships is a big reason. That's why I got into it.
The gathering. That part of the game.
Literally the gathering. Some people want to build their collection and accumulate economic value. They view this as like an asset class, and they can just start accumulating things, and collecting is fun.
Or just like having stuff. Just like, I didn't have stuff, now I have stuff.
Long story short, liking things gives you dopamine, and that's what we're doing. I show up to a store and I buy a pack of dopamine, and that is essentially what I'm doing. Now, how do you lose all 3 of those things at once, especially that dopamine? Predatory trading.
Yes.
It's tough. How would you define predatory trading?
So it's when you sort of take advantage of someone, you give them the wrong, power. 21 times the power means it's fair. Wrong analysis. It's rare for rare. My random 3 mana 3/3 for your fetch land.
Yup. And
there's sort of Timmy bait cards where like new players see it and they're like, this Sarah Angel is a rare. It's a 4/4 flyer. It just kills them so fast. My
Croson Cloudscaper's a 9/9. Let's get it. That seems so good.
Cloudscaper's the 13/13. Colossus is the 9/9.
I
know my Croson lore.
I've got to turn in my nerd card at the end of this recording. But yeah, I mean that's it in a nutshell. It's using an unfair knowledge base and taking advantage of someone to accumulate your own value at their expense.
So there's a sort of term for this. I think it's sociopath. It's either psychopath or sociopath. I always get them mixed up.
It's a mix of it.
But yeah, one of them is someone who's willing and able to give up long-term like relationships with people in exchange for short-term gain. And usually, it's not typically associated with Magic cards, but it's certainly like a microcosm of it. It's like, I'm going to rip you off in a trade so I get a good card, and I don't care that you might hate me for it. Like, I don't even realize it.
There's a lack of empathy there in general, and we're going to show you how to avoid.
So that's why you don't want to be a sociopath, because it's not a good long-term strategy.
Yeah.
And if you think like, oh well, why wouldn't I take advantage of my awesome, trade ability? It's because everyone in the store is going to hate you.
Yeah, think back to those 3 reasons. You're going to lose your friends. No one's going to trade with you to build a collection. And then when that happens, even a sociopath's dopamine levels are going to go down. But yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good definition of it. So in terms of, why do people trade? Why even bother taking the risk? Like I said, it's to get value.
Yeah. And what that means is different for different people. Like, you can both get more value out of the trade, even if no one's taking advantage of the other one.
Exactly. And understanding value and the different types of value is really the key to good trading and, like, if you ever get into business, negotiation in general. So let's dive into that a little bit more.
Yeah, like one of the ways is I need 4 Snapcasters for my deck. I have 2. You need 4 Lilianas for your deck. You have 2. I could trade you 2 Lilianas for 2 Snapcasters, and
we'd both be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, we both went from having 0 decks to having a deck.
Exactly. And
that example totally dates us, by the way.
Hashtag Magic Boomers with our Scaled Worms and our Snapcaster Mages.
I mean, I guess we were already pretty dated at Scaled Worm. That was you, not me.
Carbon dated. But, yeah. So
that's one of the ways, you can go get more value even though you're not getting different value in number value.
But let's take another step back. We're stepping back a lot here. We're going to step forward in a minute.
Yeah.
But what's the most basic form of value? It ends up being economics.
Yeah.
I mean, you remember back in the day before the internet, like the value of the card was what people were willing to trade for it.
Yes.
It's not the Wild West anymore.
Yeah.
If you were going to do some economic trading, right? If you just wanted to make sure you weren't getting ripped off, what kind of websites or resources would you use?
So, back in the day, like you said, Wild West, you just name prices. Now we have Star City Games. Like, you can just go to a reputable seller. We're not affiliated with Star City. You can use any. Channel Fireball.
Troll and Toad.
Yeah. I think they're actually out of the Magic game now.
Oh, they are?
Maybe it's just new, like, sealed product.
Okay.
I heard something about Troll and Toad, but yeah. Just any site where they'll sell cards that they have prices. And that's sort of, that's what markets do, is figure out what things are worth to the average person. They're pretty efficient at it.
Yep.
So, if you just both use the same app, TCG Mid or whatever. TCG is just like an aggregate site for all those things that I just said. And they'll probably the better one, actually.
Yeah, I think like if I was going to recommend, and again, I'm not affiliated with any of these organizations. If I was going to recommend 2 sites to check prices on, it would be Star City Games. They tend to be a little higher in price. You save on shipping, though. Like, if you ever do buy cards off of them, one of the best things about them is you know exactly what you're getting. They're really good at giving you exactly the cards in exactly the condition. But that's one of the sites that I'll use. And then TCG, like Zemoo just said, is a good way of seeing what the overall market is doing.
And one of the advantages of both of these is Star City will almost always have a card, and one of the ways you can get bad prices is if go to your local card store and they're like, oh, they're selling Arcbound Ravager for $8, and that's because they didn't have any in stock since the last time it was $8, and now it's 20. I don't know actually what it's worth now, but if it goes up and they just don't have any, they won't update their prices.
Yep.
to make it look like they're a good deal.
Yep. And it's
or just laziness.
I mean, the key thing here is to use the same site and the same pricing index, especially when it comes to TCG Player, because they'll have like a market price, a low price, a medium price, a high price, and a buy list price. Make sure you're using the same standard. Yeah. One of the things that a predatory trader will do to take advantage of you is give his cards Star City Gaming price, or give their cards Star City Gaming prices, give your cards TCG low prices. And suddenly, even if you were to trade the same card for the same card, it would be like you owe them $1.50. You know, it's terrible. So, but as long as you're just simply using the same app, the same vendor, the same website, do it.
And like you said, if Star City is $1 more for every card, if everyone's using Star City for their card prices, it all typically comes out in the wash. Sometimes there's like, I'm trading for 10 cards for one, maybe getting a slightly better deal for adding $1, but
Yup. And
it typically works out fine. It's just as long as everyone's using the same thing.
And always trust. You can trust people, obviously, but verify too. Like, don't just take someone's word that this is what the price is on that website. Because even if they're not trying to take advantage of you, there's so many freaking different versions of cards right now that like they could be just getting it wrong by accident or using the wrong version, which will affect the price. Like, is this the list or the planeswalker symbol? Is it the textured foil? Is it the this? Like, how? Just look it up yourself, so that you can be sure you're getting what you're looking
There's
for.
There's plenty of free apps. Just type in Magic Trade app in your phone, and you'll get 10 of them.
Most of them reference TCG or Star City, which is
on the back end.
Why I just go straight to them.
Yeah. MTG Stocks might be another good one.
This is a little more advanced of an economics trick, but go ahead.
So in MTG Stocks, it will have... You can only kind of look up one card at a time, and it's kind of slow, especially on phone. But you get to see the price, like the chart value, the price chart of the card. So you get to see its value over time. So if you see like card just spiked, you get to know that when you're trading for it, or
I use the stocks to determine when it would be appropriate to get the card, because I try to always look at there'll typically be a pattern. It's almost like a sine wave when it happens, and so we'll just wait for a card to be lower priced and then buy it in cash, or at that point try to trade for it. I don't consider that necessarily predatory as long as everyone's aware of what that price is doing. If you're the only one aware, it's like you're using insider trading and insider information, and if you misrepresent the long-term value of the card, or if someone else doesn't know the long-term value of the card, I would consider that to be predatory. But as long as everybody's on the same page, you can definitely trade it down to not be a dick about it,
So like a couple weeks ago, let's say, I bought a foil pernicious deed on foil Japanese pernicious deed.
That's hot.
And I looked at the price chart, and I noticed it went from 220 foil. It doesn't have Japanese on MTG Stock. It was 220 foil to 3 something. It's okay, well, if I can find anything cheaper than 300, then I can just buy it on eBay or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I just looked further into it, and I noticed that it kind of just did that a couple. It went up to 300, down to 220 again, up to. So it was just how many foil pernicious deeds get sold in a day? Probably one. So
it was you.
So those spikes were probably just noise, not the actual trend. It's just when something is as niche as foil apocalypse pernicious deed, you're gonna get huge swings. So just being aware when you're trading, this foil card is $100 more than I thought it was. You could just be able to look at, it's not actually worth that much. And, if we will sort of get into why you shouldn't say it's not actually worth that much in a trade, or shouldn't respect other people who say that. If you have a chart that shows that it does that often enough, maybe you can make that a point. As long as you're both aware and can both agree on it.
Exactly. And that's the more advanced bit. But once you've agreed on the value of the card from a dollar standpoint, it becomes pretty simple. Most people will just match cards as close to dollar as possible. They'll shake hands and move on with their lives. And that's a perfectly fine way of doing your trades. You won't get taken advantage of typically. And you'll be able to get the cards that you want and give somebody else the cards that you want, trading, maintaining friendships, and being able to come back to the next F&M without somebody being really pissed off at you.
Or leave someone, PTSD where they just don't want to come back to F&M because you might be there and they just don't want to be in the room with you.
I can't stand it when I see new players get taken advantage of. That's how the game dies, is if people do that enough. But again, that is the basics of economic trading, is just establish a value, make sure that value is the same across all parties involved, your trade partner, and you can agree on what the value is, and then just trade. It's that simple. But that particular method I use sometimes when it's more transactional for lower value trades. But I tend to try to accumulate value in my trades, which is the goal of a lot of people, pretty much everybody, what they're doing.
Before we move on, back in the Wild West days, as we said, there was this thing where you would show up and ask people, what do you put that at? Because that's the whole verbiage of that is to avoid what is the value of that. It's what do you value it at? And if you didn't know the value, you'd be like, oh, I've traded toxic slivers that were $10 cards at $1 because it's just a sliver. I don't use it. I'm not gonna. But the point, like you say, people can get value. If I'm not going to use it, it's worth nothing to me. Mm-hmm. But if it's worth $10 to someone else, I should value it at $10.
Yes.
But I didn't know that. So that's why we have all these trading apps and why they're so successful, is that you can just look up the prices and you won't be in that situation anymore as long as everyone, if someone's not cool with you looking up a price, don't trade
with them.
They're trying. I won't say they're trying, but sometimes they're just.
Most of the time, they're trying.
Most of the time, they are trying to put you in a position where you can't get ripped off.
Exactly, and
because that's how trading used to be. It's you just memorize prices, and whoever was better at memorizing prices, and it's not fun for anyone because you just always have these moments where you go home and look up oh, I just got fleeced.
And if someone asks you what do you put that at now, don't give them a price. Tell them the app you use.
Yeah. I use TCG Low. I put it at what TCG Low puts it, or whatever. Man, I don't know what people use.
Exactly, but that is the most basic form of value, and frankly, the easiest to quantify. So if you use that as a new player, you'll be okay.
Yeah, because if you go by your value, most cards that you're not you can only play 75 cards at a time. That's only cards that are of any value to you.
Yep.
But. You should treat your cards as valuable because they are valuable to other people.
So let's talk about some more advanced types of value. And we've already touched on these. So we had economic, right? That's the most basic. We already covered how to do that. And please use those tips. And then there's the value of playing with the card. But that really depends on the type of player, the event, and what they're looking to do.
Yeah.
So I was at an event where somebody needed a card. I forget exactly what it was. Let's just call it Skull Clamp, because this was around Mirrodin. God, I am dating myself. And he needed 4 of them because his were marked and they weren't damaged by the opponent. So there were, and back in the day, there were no judge proxies or anything. He just needed to buy those cards, or he was going to get DC'd from the event, right? DQ'd from the event, disconnected, right? DQ'd from the event. God, I'm playing a lot of Arena too. But so when he went up there to buy them from the vendors, suddenly the price went up, but he still bought them and was more okay with that. That's one of the things that we're going to talk about is vendors at events. But to him, the value of that card was much, much higher. He was actually trading for it at a much higher value because he needed that right then and there for an event that he invested a lot of money into, the rest of the deck, showing up, the hotel, all of that. So the value of that card at that moment was a lot higher for him than it was for anyone else that was holding that card.
There was a Pro Tour where in Soul Artifact was the breakout deck in Standard or something, and Ornithopters at that event were selling for $5 by vendors because
it's $1 card at most.
It's it's
like 50
bulk.
cents.
It is. It's been. It's nothing.
Yeah.
But like, no one knew to show up with Ornithopters. This is not a card people pack. And then when it like over the weekend, like while people were on planes, it was like, oh wait, this might just be the best deck. People were like, well, I'll spend $5 on an Ornithopter because I want to play the best deck in the Pro Tour.
Exactly, and that's the value for them. Is the potential prize. Now it gets that value gets a lot lowered when you're talking about casual events, like someone's looking to build their Samurai EDH deck.
Yeah.
And suddenly, why do I always pick on Samurai? But suddenly that value is going to be a lot less for them, and a lot. And the other thing is, a lot of times people will take the older reprints of the card, especially if you're talking about like the 92, 93 Magic crowd, and they will value that over newer cards. Typically, you can get
93, 94 in particular is a dumb format because you have to play with the 93 or 94 version of the card.
Yes.
Whereas like pre-modern will let you take a Judge Survival and play it.
Yep.
Which is why I hate 93. It's just like, oh, it's so in-groupy.
but that being said, those cards have a lot more value to those players, to those people. And when you're talking about like they're going to trade away like cards that are in standard for an old card, you can get like their present value. So standard cards have a present value and they have a future value. We'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
But you can get a lot more present value out of the standard cards than you're trading away value from the old card. I hope that made sense. Did that make sense? Did I fuck that up?
It kind of made sense. Let's elaborate with a concrete example.
Sure.
We'll work through this.
So I had there was an event where one of my friends needed 4 Boros Reckoners back when they were in standard, and they were like $15 a pop. They were one of the best decks.
They were the hit card of the set. Weird to say.
Hashtag Blasphemous Act was pretty good back then, but and he needed those for the event.
Boros Aristocrats, or whatever it was called.
Yeah, right. He had an Arid Mesa that he wanted to trade for me, and fetch lands typically retain their value a lot better. There's ups and downs, fluctuations with reprints, but they'll retain value overall and be a good long-term investment. I traded, at the time, this Arid Mesa was heavily played, but okay. It was worth probably like $25-$30, like tops. Yeah. And I traded about $45 worth of standard cards to get it. So at the time, I was trading more because I valued that older card more than the Boros Reckoners that I was trading away.
The numbers don't lie, but sometimes they also don't tell the truth.
Exactly, because after they rotated out, those Boros Reckoners dropped down to like 15 cents a pop.
Yeah.
But what makes this an ethical trade is both me and my trade partner knew that was going to happen. He just needed those for the event and didn't care about his Arid Mesa. So we both understood the value that we were each getting out of it, and we were fine with that. Bam. Good trade.
Yeah.
I have a good card. He got to play an event. Everybody goes home happy.
Yeah, and that's like one of the main ways you get value out of trades is like understanding that, cards that rotate have this sort of, total drop off.
Yes.
And sometimes they survive rotation by, like Fable of the Mirror Breaker is just like good in every format since it's been printed. So, that one, when it rotates out of standard, kind of won't drop like the others do, but, just being able to like find out that you're going to stick the value in a place that's going to retain it is an ethical way, I think, of getting value out of a trade.
And if you want to know what's going to have long-term value versus short-term value, there's 2 markets to understand. There's the collector's market of people that collect like legends that are never going to get played, but they were printed like 12 times in 1904. And then there's the play market. And to understand the play market, which is a lot easier to get into, you don't even have to play in Legacy. You don't have to play in Modern, although I would suggest dabbling, especially if your friends are cool with proxies. But just like know how to play the game in general, and then understand what the different formats are doing in terms of like what decks are winning, and that way you can kind of see like Fable of the Mirror Breaker is going to be good in every format. It's played in every format already, so you can have a better understanding of the long-term value economically of that card.
We have a whole video on like how to acquire value, like collection value, and this sort of goes into this way more in depth. But it's like, even if you don't know why Arid Mesa is a good card,
just know that it's played in every deck that plays red or white.
Knowing a little bit about Modern or Legacy or any Eternal format, we're like, oh, everyone plays this card in their red-white decks. So even if I don't need it for my mono red deck, like other people need it, just knowing that there's a wider world out there.
You can also look at that MTG stocks price, and you'll see that it has retained the value and gone up overall. Like, there's ups and downs, but that best fit line's going up and to the right.
You don't need to understand it, you just need to know it.
Yes, exactly. The last and kind of honestly most niche type of value is some players will trade for the art of the card, whether it's like a different alternate art version, like a judge's version, which is less niche actually, but like a lot of people will be like, I want this Gerard from Apocalypse or Mercadian Map, whenever Gerard was printed, because I like the story. And when it comes to that, typically they're a lot more liberal with their collections. Just make sure they understand the economic value of the cards they're trading away, and then your trade is ethical. But don't be afraid to take a trade that's in your favor if they're okay with it. Yeah.
There was a long time where like the most expensive commander is like foil Selenia, which is just like a foil. There used to be angel collectors, and it's like the first foil angel that was ever printed. It was just like $1 billion card, because there's probably less of them than Black Lotus is.
Yeah.
And you might not know that, and if you find a shoebox in your attic with that card in it, like, you wouldn't know that it was at all valuable, but look at your app and you'll be able to see.
I see it a lot with angels, people collecting angels, but at least in our area, I see people collecting dragons the most of all. Everybody loves a good dragon, and folks will typically collect and
That's why they shoehorn dragons into places without dragons.
Yes, exactly.
They know someone cares about the dragons.
Exactly. But that's kind of like an overview of the different types of value.
A good microcosm of this, like, art matters too, and like versions, is back when Zendikar first came out, you get your full art lands that were like very novel at the time.
They were like $8 a pop for a while.
Yeah, it was like the first time outside of an unset where they did full art lands. So like most of us were getting full art lands for them, so they were valuable. Me and some of my friends did a thing where we aggregated our lands. So like, oh, I like this art, you like that art, I'll get all my versions of that art and trade it. So we all have matching full art lands.
Yep.
So like, we get to have all matching lands, and our 20 or whatever we need for constructed. 20 is way too many for basics, but it was
playing elves over there or something.
Yeah, I mean, you could need like 20 for a cube of each. I don't know.
There you go.
I don't think a cube was a wink in our eyes back then. But yeah, like we're trading, a basic land for a basic land, but different arts, and you're just both, getting what you want, which is all matching. So like, oh, I have a foil Relic of Progenitus, and you have a regular one. Sometimes they're the same price because of how like new card foils end up being. Like, there's a foil in every pack now. Foils just doesn't mean anything anymore.
And they Pringle.
Yeah, and they're cum damaged half the time. So like, sometimes you want all foils or no foils, and it's like fine to trade a foil for a non-foil as long as you're I when I went to the RC in Denver, I had to unfoil my mono black deck because I had like a couple foils, and I didn't want to show up to a premier level event with one foil in my deck, because that's the wrong amount of foils to have.
It's just one card is just smiling at you as you put the deck down.
Shuffle my deck, put it down. Oops. Not a good look for premier level event.
No. But That's right. I mean, that's how I got my Restoration Angels. I traded 4 non-foils for 4 foils, even when the foils were more expensive, because the dude needed them for a competitive rules enforcement level event, and that was the only foils he had. But again, that's a pretty decent explanation of value. And again, the application of this is understand the value that your trade partner is getting, and they understand the value that you're getting. And if you guys are okay with that, make the trade.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
And I'm at this weird spot where I have a lot of cubes with weird cards, so I need like a foil River Kelpie. And it's like, if I see someone with a foil River Kelpie, it's probably worthless to them. But where am I going to see another foil River Kelpie? You know, so I do need to keep that in mind when I'm trading. Like, I imagine that card is actually worth a little bit foil for whatever reason, but you know what I mean. Like, it's just gonna be hard to like
random niche cards.
Like every time I make an order on like Star City or something, to make it worth the value of saving on shipping, I have to like load up my cube list of cards I don't have in foil and just like find some that are good prices. It's like it's just so hard to just get cards. So it's like if you see random foil or old foil, like that is part of the value baked into it. Is like I'm never gonna see this card in foil again. I have to trade for it, whatever they say.
Yeah, pretty much.
If I want it.
Hashtag value trading. So
supply demand.
How do you? I think. What are we talking about next? I think that's right. You had a little bit on this bulk trading.
Oh right. So remember way back at the beginning where we said don't trade buy list for sell list. Some of the best ways you can make money in trading is trading for bulk. And the reason is because for some reason in that domain, people seem to let it fly that all your cards are 15 cents, all your bulk rares are 15, probably they're down to 10 now.
Yep.
Let's just say 10 cents. All your bulk rares are 10 cents, and all my cards are, or whatever I'm trading bulk for, I'm trading at sell list price. Just the actual $20 card for $20, not, the 15 the store would give you. Whereas, like, the store's going to give you $15 for the amount of bulk I hand you. I should get, and also, people don't know what bulk is.
No.
I've heard people, like, got banned for doing this at big, like, GPs back when they had them. So people would just walk around with, like, binders of all the, staples and say, I'm looking to trade for bulk. And they would just, like, make a ton of money because people would just go through their binders and go, oh, I don't know what this is worth, but I need another card. I need 500 cards to get this $5 card or whatever in bulk. And it's tough to pull out 500 rares without one of them being $5 actually.
It's tough to pull 500 commons without one of them being at least $1. I mean, if you're trading for commons at 10 cents a piece, like in uncommons, and someone took the time to like accumulate and keep these things together, chances are they're worth more than what you're getting. Even if it's just like signets and stuff, like you can make a lot. So go ahead. Sorry.
So yeah, if you trade for bulk, know what your bulk is. There's a site called Dawn Glare, where it lists the cards in a set that are like over 50 cents or whatever, like anything that's not bulk. So you can just go through a collection real quick and just like, because Dawn Glare Invoker was like a $2 card or something. It was like a common from Rise of the Eldrazi. You would never think it's expensive, but
it is.
Probably good in command. It taps all your opponent's creatures, all of them, not just one player, all of them.
Yes, I think in order to ethically trade in bulk, one, you can't be the one to decide which of your trading partners' cards are bulk. They have to be the ones to present it to you. And two, if you see something that's obviously not bulk, like if you're going through, if they're a vendor, they should fucking know better.
Yeah.
Buy the damn card. But if it's just like another player, honestly, it's not really ethical to not tell someone that their dual land is worth thousands of dollars because they just don't know the value of it.
Yeah, like for the Toxic Sliver scenario, I would have gone through my binder, pull out a Toxic Sliver as bulk, because that's what it was to me. I didn't know. So it's like, it's that whole thing where, like, you put the onus on them. Like, what do you value it at? Like, give me bulk is sort of like saying, tell me what you value your cards at, and the only answer is bulk, and yes or no.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to actually have that much bulk on you.
Yes. It is. This is one of the more risky ways of trading if you were the one trading away the bulk. That being said, if you take the time to go through your collection and really just understand the value of the cards, like anything over $1 gets put into a specific box for me.
Yeah.
Anything under $1, if I think it's playable or it's good or somebody could want it, goes into a different box, and then everything else goes into the goes into the bulk or the high value binder. And that's how I personally organize my collection.
Yeah, I have a whole box full of cards that I've ever seen play ever, might ever want to find again ever.
It's an impressive box.
Alphabetized. We might actually do an episode on our storage solutions.
Yeah.
That actually sounds like a good idea, now that I'm thinking. So yeah, the whole thing here, and another way that you can sort of break the mold with bulk is cards don't stay bulk. Goryo's Vengeance was probably bulk at some point. Now it's like $30 or something. It keeps going up and down because it gets reprinted, and then it's like, oh wait, this is a good modern deck now.
When it was first printed, Sensei's Divining Top was bulk. It was like $1.
I mean, that's not bulk for an uncommon, but it's much less than it is now.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, people like would take the uncommons and because they were trickier to trade with, they would view them as that. Like you look at the artifact lands, and all that kind of stuff, and like the value of those fluctuates like crazy.
Yeah, sometimes you can get like trade them for $3 a pop, and sometimes they are
them for a nickel.
Yep, and people would leave them on tables and.
Another good one is Lightning Bolt. That is wildly fluctuated in price.
Yeah. Basically every card in Burn has been 50 cents at one point in time and then $4 at another.
Hashtag Goblin Guide.
But yeah, so that's, I know I traded for a Force of Will once with bulk. Probably my only bulk trade I made. And I threw in a Flash in the bulk because it was during a time where Flash was errated, and when it got unerrated, it became expensive real quick, and then banned real quick. But it was expensive real quick, and whoever had my pile of bulk might have been able to get a good price for it, and that's their prerogative as the person who buys bulk. Is sometimes cards that they're always going to be bulk. Bulk's not going down really. But it's valuable because sometimes a card spikes.
Sometimes Commander gets invented and cards find a home.
Yeah. All the blatant thieveries and insurrections that were worthless became really sought after. And then they kind of printed a bunch of cards that made them.
Even Rhystic Study.
Oh, yeah.
That was like a nickel. That's a common.
I bought a collection with like 5 or so Rhystic Studies in it. And that probably paid for the whole collection.
Probably. I was so lucky with that one.
And that's just a common.
Yeah.
But it happens.
Common for rare? Huh? Don't do it.
So speaking of
exactly what I just did.
Yeah. We got some hustles to get through. This is sort of the tricks that the predators will use.
Don't do these things because it makes you an asshole and no one will want to play with you.
Yeah. So the reason we say this, so my view on this is that if you are like a harmless animal, if you're a squirrel, you are not virtuous, you are harmless. You can't hurt anyone. You can only be hurt. You're not. But if you have the power to hurt someone and don't, that is virtue.
It was downright philosophical.
Yeah. We called that chivalry back in the day. You're a knight, you're the guy with the horse and the sword, but you don't just run around killing everyone. You protect people.
Exactly.
So the whole point of telling you all this is that we want you to know these tricks so you can spot them, help the kids at your shop who are getting taken advantage of by these, hey buddy, stop other people from doing this to yourself and, other people.
Nothing will stop a new player more than getting taken advantage of.
Yeah.
And even if they're a kid, even if they want to come back to that store, if the parents find out the amount of value that got stolen essentially from them, it's not actually stealing technically, but ethically it is. If they find out how much value got lost in that type of predatory interaction, they'll never come back to that store. And so these are the things to avoid. Now, one of the things, again, is if everybody's aware of the value, you can avoid some of these. Like the first one that we have is rotation trading. That's kind of like what I did with those Boros Reckoners. But the reason that mine wasn't predatory is because we all knew damn well that those Boros Reckoners were going to be worthless in like 2 weeks. My trade partner knew that. I knew that. I even told my trade partner that and asked him, "Are you sure?" And the answer was yes, so that was good.
Yeah.
But when a card is in standard, it'll be really expensive. It'll be like $20-$30 for a card that's really popular in the standard decks. And then suddenly it rotates to an older format and it feels underpowered or useless or really niche. Maybe it fits into like one deck. And the value will plummet because the demand plummets.
Yeah.
So what a lot of predatory traders will do is they'll wait for a set rotation, like a couple weeks before. They'll accumulate all these cards that are really in high value, and they'll be playing with them. And then, like 2 weeks before they rotate out, suddenly they're interested in trading for Shocklands.
Yeah.
Suddenly they're interested in trading for Fetchlands, or Modern Staples, or Legacy Staples, or Commander Staples, because their cards are artificially high-priced right now. And that is, and without the trading partner being aware that those cards are going to plummet, they are going to plummet in value, it becomes predatory.
Yeah, and there's certainly ethical ways to go about this. Like sometimes you just have cards that you're trying to offload because you know that they're going to go down.
Yep.
But some
eBay them.
You do want to be aware that like, if I'm trading for this for standard, I'm going to get 2 weeks out of it. That's probably not the right time to trade for it.
So if you do find yourself in the position where you need to trade for those, if you're in a competitive event, you might have to bite the bullet and just get them full price. But if you're like doing F&Ms and stuff like that with your friends and everybody knows what's happening, typically you can get a decent price on them a couple weeks before they rotate out. And you'll be able to play with them for a little while, then they'll drop in value. You lose a little bit of monetary value, but you'll at least be able to play with them.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of times where I've like needed a foil for my cube or whatever, and I ask like, "Oh, what's this worth?" And it's like, "Oh, $8 is what." Oh, it sees play in standard. I'll come back to you in a month.
Yeah.
And I don't need that foil for my cube right today. Like I'll still have my cube in a month.
That's one of the only times where I'll ask, like if I was your trade partner there and you're like, "I'll come back in a month," I'll be like, "So tell you what do you value that as?"
Yeah.
And then that's like one of the only times where it's really cool to ask that question. It's not meant to be predatory. It's meant to acknowledge that the...
You can have this for an extra month. I don't care, because I'm not going to trade it to anyone else.
Yeah, exactly.
This foil standard card that's about to rotate.
So we have the rotation traders. One of the things to watch out for, and what a lot of these traders will do, is they'll be really pushy about it. They'll be like, "Come on, man, this is a really good deal. Like, why would you turn this down?" Like, and
you've been trading for 10 minutes. You got to make a decision.
If somebody is pushy, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're trying to take advantage of you. It means that warning bells should go off, not... and you should really take a look at the trade that you're making.
Yeah.
Like, evaluate it and see if it's actually worth it.
At any point in any trade, you can say, "Hey, I just don't want to trade right now.
Mm-hmm.
Just for whatever reason, I changed my mind. I don't want to trade." And if they don't respect that, you're under no obligation to trade with them anymore.
A lot of people that end up playing games like this, myself included, especially when I was younger, end up being kind of socially awkward, for lack of a better term. Like, this is one of the ways that kids that don't have a lot of friends, like myself, when they're growing up, can start to socialize. And it can be really uncomfortable, regardless of that. It can be really uncomfortable to be in like a confrontational situation. And a predatory pushy trader will try to use that to get you to make a bad deal. But again, don't just assume that they are. Just take a look at what you're going through, because sometimes people will just have other things going on.
Yeah.
They're coming across as pushy because that's just how they word things. But again, you don't have to trade with them.
They could be socially awkward as well. It just manifests in a different way than your social awkwardness.
Exactly. The extroverted awkward.
Yeah, there's tons of ways. Another thing is, back in the old Wild West days, I remember there used to be articles on Magic that say, like, oh, if you're a jerk to your opponent, they might make mistakes that they wouldn't otherwise make. I know people like this who, if someone's rude to them, they completely tilt off the face of the planet and are just a worse Magic player.
Yep.
Same thing goes for trade. I don't specifically, but I'm pretty sure I've read a trade article. Like, yeah, if you're just like, ask what their price are like 5 times, you might get a lower price because they just forget.
I hate that stuff.
Just like stuff that people used to be so unhinged with what they would tell you is what you should be doing. Now we're sort of at a point where Magic's much more friendlier, and we don't tell people to be jerks to get better prices.
Exactly.
But people like us that have been from that era, if we didn't grow and mature as people, we might still be out there doing that. It's one of those things where, like, be aware that some people will do this on purpose.
Exactly.
There's a trait of disagreeability, whereas if I'm more disagreeable than you, I can make us in an awkward spot, and you will cave first and get out of it any way you can. And everyone has an amount they're willing to be disagreeable. And if yours is lower, you can just say, like, hey, I'm not trying to be in this spot. You can break it off without losing money.
Pull the ripcord. That's the easiest way of getting out of that situation.
Don't trade with that person ever again.
Speaking of people not to trade with typically, I hate this. This is one of my biggest pet peeves, and it's one of the ways that a lot of people will try and scam you. We like to call them the take-backers. They will agree to a trade, but then take it back and suddenly try to get more value. Yeah. There's a neural path that gets made when you've agreed to something that makes you more likely to agree to something else, and people are trying to take advantage of it.
It's a well-documented psychological phenomenon. A car salesman will do this to you. They'll be like, they'll agree to a price, shoot the breeze with you for 5 minutes, walk away for 10, come back, oh, my boss said I can't do that price. And you've already agreed to it, so you take the worst price. It's
really unethical. Yeah. And unless someone is clearly in doubt on whether they want to take a trade, they're typically trying to scam you. Some people will go back and forth in their head and then take the trade back and say this would make it more worth it. But on principle, I won't trade with that person. Even if I don't judge that person afterwards, even if we remain friends, which typically we do, I just don't trade with them anymore. Because once the deal is made, and that is my personal etiquette and my boundary. And so just keep in mind that you don't have to accept the second trade.
Yeah.
Period. You don't have to accept any trade. Ever.
This is the old RuneScape trick where you, like, agree to a trade, and then you, like, pull out the rune sword and agree to it again and hope they have a bad connection and they just double click or something.
So there is an ethical way of utilizing similar principles that's a bit of an advanced maneuver. I use this in negotiation for large business deals. Ask to borrow a pen or something similar at the start of the trade. Be like, oh, can I just check the TCG app? Do you mind if I just use your phone real quick? Or can I borrow a pen to write this down? And then you give it back to them. Because that sets a neural pathway of, I help this person, without actually trying to do a predatory practice on the trade. That just sets the tone as less confrontational and more cooperative, and makes it easier for everybody to find a solution. Yeah. So if you are inclined on using that type of meta technique in order to get value out of a trade, in my opinion, that is how to ethically do that. And by the way, if you ever find yourself in a business negotiation or a debate in particular, that is a very, very powerful topic. Know where I learned that? Autobiography of Ben Franklin. He would, when he was debating someone from that was opposed to him politically, or if he had someone that was opposed to him politically, he would borrow a book. He would read the book, give the book back, and then they were friends. It was friggin' bizarre. So, like, that is
awesome.
a good way of doing that in a positive and non-manipulative way.
Yeah.
Even though it is technically kind of manipulative, I don't think it's unethical.
Every single person who knocks on my door trying to sell me something, they always park their Segway on my lawn, and they always lead with, "Oh, you have a Prius. I love that. You care about the environment." And it's like, "Yeah, I know you love my Prius. You drove here on a Segway."
How many Segway salesmen have knocked on your door? A couple, huh?
It's noticeable enough that I came up with that bit in my head before we started recording.
Oh my goodness, that is pretty funny.
Yeah, it is uncanny. It has to be like part of the playbook, as you. Yeah.
It is actually.
But yeah, it's crazy. Psychology, man.
It's yeah. No, sales can be kind of skeevy sometimes, and I will admit to that entirely.
Just be aware of it, and like their tricks don't work on me. Because I'm aware of it.
So another thing that a lot of people will do, and this is typically accompanied by being pushy, is they will nitpick the condition of your cards where their cards are just fucking pristine, even if they've been through the washing machine twice and are like halfway recycled. You know, like they'll. It's not always predatory, because sometimes cards are just beat the fuck up and lower value, but. Watch out for anyone who condition nitpicks your cards while upplaying the condition of their own cards. If you're going to do it, both are going to take a look. Bust out your jeweler's loop and look at the scratches at their shit too.
Yeah. Typically, when I trade, like, I'm blind to condition, but if someone brings condition in, I'll start, criticizing their, like, I'll just give a once over of the cards, and if one of them has a bad condition, like, they're not going to volunteer, like, "Oh, this is beat up, it's worth $4 instead of $5. Though some people will actually.
The ones that will are typically the collectors. Like one of our friends, Andy, I was trading him a Judge's Tectonic Edge, or the one that's like one land, sacrifice it, blow up a non-basic if your opponent controls 4 or more. Yeah. That one. And I had 2 of them, but the one that he was looking at, we were going to trade for it, but in closer look, it was scratched to hell. And he didn't want it for a deck. He just wanted it to fill his collection out.
He wanted it for a mono white cube, which still has not been built.
Build the damn cube, Andy.
This is 10 years old at this point.
So I swapped the card out, because me as a player, my card, the scratched one, was totally playable.
Yeah.
But him as a collector had a legitimate point about the condition of the card, so that's fine. So for collectors, it will matter. But for players, typically it's just like, can I put this in a fucking protector and roll with it, or is it not gonna be? If you have like a chunk missing out of it, like, obviously, like that trashes the value, but that's it.
Like, there are legitimate concerns on condition, especially for older cards, for foils. Like, sometimes you trade for a foil or buy a foil, and it's just like a Pringle, and it's like, I can't put this in a deck. Why did I buy it?
Yep.
So, like, people, criticizing that is like a real thing, and like the whole point of a foil is to have the nicest version of a card that's old and collectible, and if it's beat up, like, it doesn't fulfill that role for them.
Exactly. But the point is, to avoid predatory trading using that technique, if your card's condition is on the table, so is theirs. Yeah. If they won't even debate the condition of their card that's on the table, if they're trying to upsell it and you can clearly see that it's been scratched or half folded or something, you need to walk away, because they are trying to take advantage of you, period, end of story.
Yeah. Whenever there's like a criticism, like condition or whatever, it cuts both ways.
Yeah. Okay,
I definitely had so many people say like, "Oh, well, your card's beat up." I was like, well, yours was. I didn't say anything, but yours is too, so it's fair. We're both trading a beat-up card for a beat-up card.
Exactly.
So many people think they can just, like, get you to go, like, "Oh, yeah,
Okay.
Mine is beat up, I guess. That is a true statement.
And this is a good way
without rationally thinking, like, well, what about others?
And if you are socially awkward and trying to learn how to do different social interactions, this is a good quantifiable way of learning how to stand up for yourself.
Yeah.
Because you really just need to stand up for yourself at that point. I mean, the last thing that we wanted to talk about was something that we've already touched briefly upon, but that's a false equivalence of value.
Yeah.
0-1 Bird of Paradise versus 28 power of 4 scaled worms. Like
20 power.
There's 7 6s.
There's 7? What am I thinking of?
You're thinking of the 5-4 trampling worm. I can't remember his name.
Worm.
Spined worm.
Yeah.
Yep, that's the one.
You're right.
I know my worms. But
yeah, you do.
That I don't know what that even means. I just destroyed myself.
But yeah, so rare for rare. Oh, an uncommon. 2 uncommons are worth a rare. Those aren't real things.
Here, I'll trade you this Croson Cloudscaper for this here Rhystic Study. Yours is just a common. Mine's a rare, and it has a big power and toughness. So, like, obviously, I'm giving you a deal.
The only equivalence you should really is monetary value.
That's it.
Free market value. It's like, oh, you're getting 5 cards, I'm only getting 1. Well, sometimes you get an expensive card. That's what it is.
That 1 card was a Mox Ruby, you douche.
Typically, you do want to be the one getting the most expensive card in the trade in terms of, like, long-term value. That's usually how it works. But, if a card's worth 5 other cards, it's worth 5 other cards.
Exactly. And so that's...
You want to play the cards in the meanwhile. So sometimes you need the right card.
And unless someone is, like, frankly, a child and really doesn't understand, like, there's something there where they don't get it, and they do something like that. All the other ones, it's been like, there's reasons that they could be doing this. They're conditioned to picking because they care. They're a collector. They're taking back because they really weren't sure about the trade to begin with. They're pushy because they're just awkward and they don't understand the rotations. Like, all those can have legitimate reasons behind it. This one, apart from, like, having a learning disability, does not. If anyone ever tries to do this with you, just walk away. They are unequivocally trying to take advantage of you and basically steal value from you without being liable for the crime of theft. And that's it.
Yeah.
So those are some of the hustles to avoid.
Yeah. And another like smaller one sort of goes with the story. I was at I was at the RC and one of the vendors had foil Japanese pernicious, different ones than the ones I bought online. I bought the ones online because I didn't get them here. Spoiler to the story. So they were selling them at like $250 a piece, and I was like just eyeing them, and then the vendor's like, make you a deal, $480 for the both of them. So I was like, okay, I'm saving a little bit on each of them if I just buy them both. Probably was gonna buy them both if I was looking at one.
Yeah.
Guy kind of knew what I was up to, so I was like, okay, I'll cut back another deal, $470. It's like, come on, dude, it's $5 per one. It's like, that's not gonna work on me. It's $5 per one for you too.
Yeah.
This is a like hard to get rid of card. Mm-hmm. Like, who wants to spend?
You've probably been having those since like 2001 when you cracked them out of a pack.
Like, this is a card that is expensive on Legacy, not the full amount, just Legacy price memory. Just like it used to be the best card in Standard.
God, I loved Pernicious League back in the day.
Maybe not that, but one of the better. Like, it was a really good card in Standard. It did see play in Legacy for a bit, but like that doesn't drive prices. So it's like, it's just like a cool old card. Who else is going to trade for these? So I didn't do it. I ended up coming back at the end of the event, and they were sold. It's like, what'd you sell them for? It's like, oh, $450 for the pair. It's like, oh, I offered you more than that. Funny. Funny how you played yourself. It's like, yeah, I thought you left.
So that's
So yeah, it's $5 per for you, idiot. So just, remember, whenever someone tries to hustle you, with a push, just think, does it cut both ways? So yeah.
Vendors is actually funny. That's a good segue into our next topic, which is like, where do these things occur the most? I find that like stores typically these days with Yelp and the accessibility of markets and stuff, they'll usually be either like at mid-range market prices, or they do have overheads. They got to make a buck. They'll be a little bit over.
They got to keep the lights on.
Exactly. And if word gets out that they're just taking advantage of players, there's fucking so many other places that I can play.
Yeah.
Like there are 2 hobby shops within fucking 10 miles of my house. And if one of them was suddenly taking advantage of new players, I would never go back there again. I would put on the internet, this is what you need to watch out for, and then I would never go back. So that's good. But vendors at conventions are not to the same standards. They're never going to see you again. Yeah. A lot of time people will try to take advantage of you with that. So be careful with vendors at conventions. Yeah. I'm not saying that they're all bad or even most bad, but if you're going to get a bad retailer, it's going to be on eBay or it's going to be a vendor at a convention. Yeah. Those are where you're going for.
Big vendors, like, at a GP or something, a big vendor is probably reputable because, a bad review on them reflects a bad review on a huge business.
But if it's just some dude selling cards he found out of a storage unit, he would sell anything he can get his grimy little hands on. Yeah. Don't trust it.
If you go to like the Elks and they're doing a swap meet or flea market, that's the word. If they're doing like a small thing like that, like be aware of what you're buying and selling. Maybe they don't know, or maybe they do.
Be able to verify your cards too. I personally accidentally bought proxies that were being pawned off as real cards at a flea market like 2 years ago, and this is I've been playing since like analog phones were a thing. But that's from a retailer standpoint, that's to watch out for. So where's typically these predatory practices happening? It's where old players meet new players. So we're talking pre-releases. Large conventions and F&Ms. It's a lot harder to scam somebody like us that like is honestly like an expert on this particular type of collectible. It's hard to scam us, but it's a lot easier to scam a Timmy that doesn't know that his Bird of Paradise is worth $8 and not 4 scaled worms.
Yeah.
And that's typically where to look out for. I think the other place. Did you have anything else you wanted to add on this particular topic? I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory that's where it's going to happen. Yeah,
just anywhere where someone is more knowledgeable than the other people that can be expected to be there is when this can happen. And just be aware if you are the person who knows not much, be aware that that's who you are, and
nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with pulling out your phone and checking up a price before you look at it. Especially like at a con or whatever, you can look at the price and go, okay, I'll think about it, walk around, take a lap, pull out your phone so maybe they don't see you looking up the price.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
you can always walk away, you can always come back. Like I did with that vendor. I came back to offer $470 again.
And he had sold them for $20 less.
Probably would have paid $480 if it came down to it, but I was gonna put them on the spot.
The last place that this occurs frequently is if you do any internet-based trading. There's a lot of Reddit groups. There's a lot of there's just a lot of online communities, Facebook Marketplace, Reddit groups, all this stuff. Especially if you're not able to physically if you're unable to physically inspect the card before you trade, probably just don't.
Yeah.
You could use best practices. If you're don't ever ship first. See if you can find like a legitimate business. Sometimes comic shops will offer a service where they'll hold cards in escrow, essentially, verify and validate and swap them. If you're going to do like really big trades like Power 9 or anything like that, you probably know what you're doing and can get a service like that. But honestly, just don't.
Yeah. Like we have a thing for trading online. It's called eBay. You can just spend money, get the card, and they're fully accountable for it.
And eBay will just take your side if you say something went wrong.
Yeah.
If you say this was not what I signed up for, they said it was a real Magic card, I hit it with the jeweler's loop, it is clearly a proxy. eBay will just give you your money back and charge the vendor. What's the return policy on Reddit? There is none.
Yeah.
So that is...
Go with a channel where you have some agency if things go sour. And,
exactly.
It can even be due to ignorance, not malevolence. Like, if I find a foil Selenia Dark Angel in my closet in a shoebox that I haven't touched in 10 years, I'll say it's in good condition, but I don't know what a good condition means because I'm a Timmy who hasn't touched the card in 10 years. Old foils will have clouding, which most people won't even notice till you inspect it. So it's in good condition. Well, no, it's not, because foils have a different way of being in bad condition.
And sometimes it can be just an honest mistake that kind of unintentionally scams you.
Sometimes you buy a foil and they leave it in the mailbox on a hot day and it's a Pringle by the time you get to it.
Sometimes somebody buys a whole collection and didn't check them themselves and doesn't realize they're selling a proxy or a fake Magic the Gathering card until it's far too late. But there's no return policy on just person-to-person trading. So unless you can personally and physically inspect the card beforehand, if somebody's like, hey, I'm online, do you want to meet up at XYG Game Store and do this trade? That's one thing. Go ahead and take precautions, protect yourself anytime you're meeting strangers on the internet, obviously. But in a public game store, there's really little risk, especially if you're an adult. If you're a child, just don't fucking do it. Yeah. But but if they're saying ship me first, absolutely not.
There are literally Facebook marketplace locations at police stations where you can meet a person in a public space to trade a card. Libraries work too. Just where you can be safe and do this if you're going to go down that route. I mean, I bought a commander deck from someone on MySpace. No,
you just dated yourself even worse than I did.
No, what was?
Did you
Craigslist?
Did you use your dial-up rotary phone to connect to MySpace?
It was Craigslist because I've never been on MySpace or Facebook. Is my claim to fame. But I was just trying to think of an old thing. sorry, people who are still on MySpace, but you're old. But yeah, it was Craigslist. I found someone selling a card. It was basically, there was a Diamond Valley in a commander deck that was marketed as this is a commander deck. Notably, there's a Diamond Valley.
That's a good way of getting rid of some bulk around a Diamond Valley.
I mean, it was a real commander deck.
Oh, that's cool.
There was a Stoneforge Mystic. I got that before it was unbanned in Modern, so it's a good pickup.
That's hot.
There's a lot of infinite combos. But when I went to pick up, the trade, my dad came with me, just someone else, because that's one of the things is if they show up with two people and they know I've got $500 or whatever I was buying this Diamond Valley for, they could
rob you.
They could just punch me because I drove across state lines to pick this card up. They don't know exactly where I'm from, but they can doubt that I'd ever see them again.
Unless you're really competent and capable, just don't trade internet stuff. Yeah, that's the simplest advice.
Yeah, there's a lot more that can go wrong. They mentioned that the Diamond Valley was inked, so I knew that going in. Matters a little bit with older cards because they cannot be graded once they're inked, but it looked fine. So yeah, it's they were open. They knew what their card was worth. I got a pretty good deal because I bought a whole deck. Yeah. And Diamond Valley went up since then, so I'm happy.
And honestly, that's really the end result is if you can follow these best practices, chances are you're going to be happier with the trades that you make, and you're going to be happier with the game in general and your social group around you. So, I mean, if we're going to summarize, and this goes for any type of negotiation that you do, whether it's for Magic the Gathering cards, whether it's for trading, understand the value that your trade partner is getting. Make sure they understand the value that you're getting out of it. And if you can come to an agreement, that's when you make the trade. Keep in mind, you can always pull the ripcord and say, no, I'm not trading. And that is fine. Yeah. Anyone has a problem with that, that's their issue. Because it's always okay to not trade your cards and to walk away from something if it gives you a funny feeling.
Also, respect yourself. I knew a person who, let's say they're not all there in the head, and they had a friend who traded, a bunch of bulk for their Liliana.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like, they were told, like, hey, you should try to get this trade back because it's not, like, you just got kind of ripped off a bunch. And they said, well, I know this person wants this for their girlfriend's commander deck or something, and they, like, came up with a reason why it was okay that they got ripped off, and don't do that.
Yeah.
Even if you can come up with, like, a good reason, you're probably doing that because you're not respecting yourself enough. Just remember, your cards are worth something, you're worth something. Take care of yourself. It's definitely, don't be this person who, like, knew they were getting ripped off or figured out they were getting ripped off and told themselves that it was okay. It's not okay.
And if you find it difficult to stand up for yourself, especially, like, if any kids are watching this, sometimes it can be difficult to stand up for yourself. This is a good way of quantifying value.
Yeah.
And you can use this as a means of kind of broaching into standing up for yourself.
Yeah. Even if
because you can say what the value is, and you can
Yeah.
understand what that value is in a quantifiable way.
Even
It
if
makes it a little easier.
Even if you don't believe in you, we believe in you.
Yeah.
Believe in us who believe in you.
Amen to that one. You are worth not getting ripped off in your trades, most definitely.
Yeah.
But with that, that's a great positive note to wrap this up on. Once again, this has been the 2-for-1 podcast. I am one of your hosts, Bacon.
I'm Zemoo.
And thanks for sitting and listening to us ramble about Magic the Gathering. Please, any questions that you have about, like, was I ripped off on XYZ trade? If you have any questions about the methodologies, or if you want any advice about, is this a legitimate resource to use, hit us up in the comments.
Yeah. Share your stories, good trades, bad trades, what you learned from it.
What's the best value? I want to know what the best value you ever pulled from a vendor's bulk box was. That's what I want to know. Did you get that Gaia's Cradle for 50 cents because they were like, it's just a rare, or something like that? Like let me know in the comments how you did.
Yeah, and I want to know, if you got ripped off ever, what did you learn from it? What can other people learn from it? We're trying to build people up. Like I say, it's kind of a touchy subject because it's talking about
tough.
People getting ripped off, but we're trying to foster a safe-ish place to learn, to be better.
And with that, thanks again for watching. May your birds remain unbolted until you untap.
Nice. All right, thanks for watching, everybody.
Nerds.
I need a playmat that says, "May your birds be unbolted till you untap."